Another month has passed, which means there's another video on this channel. Somewhere along the lines, I dropped from doing these videos weekly to basically this pace that we have now. But I did just recently complete a big project, so there's hope for the future. That project is what I'm going to start with on this update. For the past 2 years, I've been working on and off a collaboration with composer from Quebec, Dave Tremblay, and his project Melopoeia, which is an experimental microtonal project based on the transliteration of words into music. I was recruited to perform vocals for his album I'm Melopoeia, which is the genesis of J.R.R. Tolkien's Silmarillion that goes over the creation of his universe by Ilúvatar and the Valar. The Silmarillion is my favorite literary work, so it was kind of an honor to pay tribute on this album and provide the voice for the readings. The music itself was entirely written and arranged by Dave. My part was to find the poetry in Tolkien's writing and perform it in a way that was naturally fitting to the music. After many different takes and retakes, including a whole restart about halfway through the recording process, it was finished last week and freely available on Bandcamp. The experience on this project has really helped my understanding of not only the work itself, but the use of prose in music as opposed to poetry, which has been my predominant writing style for so long. I always considered that to be a huge weakness, especially since black metal has such a rich history in prose. Darkthrone, Emperor especially, they all wrote in prose and arranged their music in non-cyclic structures as to tell a story rather than repeat themselves. So having worked on this project, it's really helped me get a better feel for it, and I hope to adapt more of this into my music heading into the future. There's not much more I can explain about the project itself. It's really complex and you just have to listen to it to understand the scope. So I'll leave it at that and provide everything you need below. Continuing the subject of prose, although my main focus has been on music so far, my true calling, as I like to think of it, is in the art of storytelling. So far, music has been the medium, but I do come up with ideas beyond that. Not everything I write can always be set to music. On top of that, I'm more of a creative writer than a musician, so with lyrics, I tend to outright my ability to make music for it. Some of the bigger and more detailed ideas end up being more fitting for a literary medium, in my opinion. And while I've started and stopped on several different novel-length stories, there's one in particular that I really like, and it's coming together. So in the meantime, I am setting aside time to focus on that. It's a good way for me to take a break from music, which I always intended to do after Return. I feel like if I start writing a new album too soon, I'm still in the mindset of the last one, and whatever I do is going to sound exactly the same, which is not my goal as a musician. In the past, I had the fortune of sitting on top of a backlog of music that I wrote over a huge period of time, which allowed me to release 4 albums in such a short span: Demo, Insomnia, Rebirth, and Origins, all of which feature a continuously evolving sound. But I think I finally settled into a groove, and I'm a little bit too comfortable with that. When I do work on music now, it's in short bursts, basically building up a library of ideas, and I've been focusing primarily on things that I haven't done before. Now the wonderful part of all this is I have ideas for probably somewhere around 20 songs scattered across a huge range of styles, which means I probably won't release another album this year since it's just too much to work with in such a short period of time. But in about a year or two, it's all going to come together simultaneously, which means you're going to get like 5 albums that all sound radically different from one another. It's very likely that the next release is going to be a project under my own name, just like Serpent. You can think of it sort of like Devin Townsend, who I kind of model my approach after, where Strapping Young Lad was his extreme metal band, and everything else that came to his mind he collected and released under his own name. Like his solo work, don't be surprised when none of the releases sound anything like one another. Finally, for the subject that YouTube followers actually might care about, there is one last breakdown video in the Insomnia series. It's for the lyrics to the song Insomnia itself. Technically, there's 2 since I also promised to do an overall recap because I took so long to make these. Still kind of on the fence as to whether or not that's going to happen. We'll just see. This is my immediate priority for now, and I really want to get through all of the albums because I'm starting to forget a lot of the finer details on the older stuff, Rebirth, Origins especially. As for some more interesting stuff, the reason any of you are subbed to this channel in the first place, I have at least one lesson planned on harsh vocal techniques that I want to talk about. That's going to follow the Insomnia breakdowns. I've also made a couple of updates and revisions to my personal theory on black metal that I might put together and consolidate into one big video that's meant to supplement all the other stuff that I've done and hopefully form some cohesion over 2 years worth of videos. I know initially what probably brought most of you here was to hear the random shit that had come up that no one else would really talk about. That was my own goal as well in making videos. What really happened to all of that is I pretty much exhausted that list in the first year of doing this channel. Really, my motive was to take this stream of consciousness that wouldn't shut up and try and get it out of my head. If I'd never started this channel, I'd be constantly rehashing every one of these videos to myself like a madman, starting with shitty aglock tabs, going to two-note riffs and tone and all that junk. Once I got through with it, I decided to move on as opposed to making things up and putting out watered-down content of the same stuff that everybody repeats over and over again. My method has always been to speak only when I have something meaningful to say. So thanks to everybody who actually enjoys any of this crap, and thanks especially for your patience, because I know I really haven't been in the game of coming up with material in recent times. Anyway, the summary is I'm taking a break from heavy songwriting to sort of recollect myself. In the meantime, I may or may not be working on novels. Who knows how that's going to turn out. I change my mind pretty frequently, so we'll see about that. And in the meantime, there's that thing with the Silmarillion, which you should all go listen to right now.